Good evening. Good evening. Happy Thursday. My name is Lakeisha Hines, and you are watching the Firestarter Show. Tonight, we are talking about having sex for the right reason. And I'm specifically speaking to my wives tonight. I'm specifically speaking to my wives tonight to ensure that you are having sex for the right reasons. This is the follow up from the very first episode that we had about having sex for the wrong reasons, and we broke down right and wrong reasons to have sex. But this time we're talking about the importance of wives specifically having sex for the right reason. And so a lot of times I know we just feel like, hey, we're just glad that we're having it. And we can just many times stop right there. But I will say this, if we're not having sex for the right reasons, it can have a lasting, devastating impact. And ultimately, we suffer down the road. So, in the moment when we're engaging and we're doing what we're doing, it feels great, feels amazing, we're wonderful, everybody's good. But in the long run, it truly can have adverse effects and can create a lot of disconnect and resentment amongst couples. So we do want to make sure again that we are having it for the right reason. So first and foremost, I'll just give you a recap of some of the things that we talked about previously in case you did not watch that. And of course, you can always go back and watch that episode. It is on the YouTube channel. And so you can always go back, check the playlist, and you can watch it for yourself. But I just wanted to highlight a couple things regarding having sex for the right reason and some of the things that we broke down before. So I think that, specifically, I talk a lot to Christians, right? I speak a lot to Christians, but, this is applicable for couples in general because there's still some things that need to be in place, like mutual respect and making sure that we have consent and making sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of what we want and what we're hoping to get out of our sexual interaction. But I will say this, sex in a Christian marriage is one of the gifts that God gave us. It can truly connect you on a deeper level. It can really increase your intimacy with one another. And it's so important that we prioritize it and we make sure that it is not something that we neglect over time. Over time. So we have to respect each other's needs for sexual fulfillment. A lot of times, because there is desire discrepancy, meaning one may have a high libido, one has a lower libido. A lot of times we will judge. Many times we will judge, if our spouse's libido is higher than ours, we many times will be asking them, well, what's wrong with you? What's your issue? What's your problem? Right? And really there's nothing wrong with them. They just have a different drive, right? From what you have. And that's okay. We're unique individuals and it is totally okay. Totally okay if we have different sex drives. So a lot of times what does happen though, instead of accepting it, not only do we judge it, but then we also are disgusted with the fact that this person seems to want sex all the time. And it's like, well, what is going on with you? We will oftentimes call them names and just make it seem like literally there's something truly, truly wrong with them because they have a higher need for sexual intimacy. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I could say this is gender specific, but a lot of times women have higher sex drives than their partner. So we don't want to stereotype in that way. I will say statistically, though, men do tend to have a higher sex drive than women do. And many times men will use sex for different things. Excuse me, a lot of times, as women, we use sex for connection. And it's not to say that men don't, they do, but they also will use it in a celebratory sense. They use it when they are really stressed out. And if they're feeling down, they may use that as a pick me up. And so it satisfies a couple different things for men, and it's a little different for women. And again, nothing wrong with that. There's no issue there. But we do want to make sure that we are not using sex again for the wrong reason, that we're not using it to avoid dealing with underlying issues or using it to avoid having conversations that we need to have with one another. We also want to make sure that our husbands are honoring what it is that their wives need to feel fulfilled in the relationship. And sometimes, we overlook the fact that she needs to connect mentally, emotionally with you before you engage in any type of physical sex. And that is really important for women. Also, making sure that, the only time you touch her is excuse me, making sure that the only time you touch her is when you want sex. Like, there should be non-sexual touch consistently over a period of time, not just when you want to have sex, right? Oh, let me be good. Let me do the right thing. Let me touch her without sex because then that'll give me sex. So, you definitely want to check your motives and your intent. And we want to make sure that, again, we're just trying to satisfy the needs of our spouse. Okay. And so that does mean non sexual touch, not putting yourself in a position where the only time you touch her is when you want to have sex. And again, you want to make sure you're connecting mentally, emotionally. And boy, if you add on that spiritual component, even better. Now, I talked a little bit too about wives because it's so important that, we are feeling comfortable in our bodies, that we are feeling comfortable in our bodies, and that we feel secure in our bodies, and that we're okay with connecting with our spouses in this way. Also, there may be times where there's certain things that you as a woman you want, and even that you need sexually from your husband, and you may have difficulty expressing that or explaining that to him, but you all have to have the conversations. There's no couple on this planet who should be having sex if they're not talking about it. Because how do you know if everything is good? How do you know if everything's going well, if each other's needs are satisfied, if we're not having a conversation? Okay, so we definitely need to be in communication, in conversation, making sure that we are connecting in all realms, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, before we try to engage physically. Okay, before we try to engage physically. So now, tonight's topic: wives having sex for the right reason. Wives. Okay, so some of the things that we have a tendency to do as wives, especially if you were brought up in the church, you heard that you are supposed to give your husband sex no matter what. No matter what. You are to meet his needs, even if that means that yours are not being met, even if that means that it's inconvenient, it's uncomfortable, you're not okay with it, you're still supposed to meet his needs. Now, I agree that we should be focused on meeting each other's needs, but I do not agree that we should be meeting our spouse's needs to our detriment. What do I mean by that? Okay, what if you're having sex and it's painful? Are you supposed to not communicate that it's painful and just muscle through to meet the needs of your spouse? Absolutely not. That needs to be a conversation. Then you, whoever is experiencing pain, well, I'm talking to wives tonight. So, you, wife, if you're experiencing pain, then you need to be speaking with your gynecologist about that. And you need to make sure that you're getting yourself evaluated, assessed. If there's testing that needs to be done, let that happen so that you take care of your body, take care of your health. Okay. So you should not be engaging in sexual activity if it is painful just for the sake of meeting his needs and you have not had a conversation. He's completely unaware and oblivious that you're in pain. Most husbands would be really hurt and really upset if they found out later on, weeks, months down the road, you've engaged multiple times in sexual activity with them and you've been in pain the whole time and you didn't say anything. Most husbands would not be okay with that. They would have a serious issue with that. So that has to be a conversation. So we're not going along with having sex to our detriment when it is painful, when it is hurtful, because not only physically does it leave a mark, but emotionally and mentally it does as well. A lot of times wives will have sex to avoid conflict. So I already talked to you about the fact that our sex drives many times are mismatched, right? And so, with that being said, typically, and let's just say it's the husband with the higher sex drive. I already said it could be the wife, but let's just say it's the husband with the higher sex drive and he wants to have sex all the time, and you kind of don't, as the wife, like you don't need it as often as he needs it. Well, one of the things that you want to do then is make sure that you are communicating that, listen, we are kind of not on the same page with our desire here. Can we possibly negotiate something that would work better for both of us? Can we negotiate something that might work better for both of us so that we don't have conflict? And I mean, I think it's wonderful when we sacrifice for our spouses. That should be every now and again. That shouldn't be the norm, that you are putting yourself in a situation where you are in pain mentally, emotionally, or physically to meet the needs of your spouse. Because what it does is while you are trying to satisfy that particular spouse so that you can create this connection and intimacy between the two of you, it actually makes your relationship worse because one is going to start to get resentful. And then you will not be looking forward to sex. Actually, you may be repulsed by it because of the dissatisfaction, the displeasure that you're having. And here's the real thing. Most men, if they are connected with their wives and in tune, they don't want to feel as if they're forcing us to do something that we do not want to do. And they ultimately usually can tell when you're into it and when you're not. Now, I know, ladies, I hear you saying, he will never know. I'm the best actress in town. But why should you have to act? And why are you acting? Why are you acting? How does that serve you or your spouse well if you're not being your true, genuine, authentic self? So remember, I said, what is the motive and the intent behind the yes? When you say yes, what is your motive and what is your intent? So we have to have the conversations. I think one of the things too that's difficult a lot of times with wives is communicating that, hey, we would like more of something or less of something. And a lot of times that has to do with what many of us were taught about satisfying our husband's egos. And we don't want to say or do anything that's going to cause him to question or to doubt himself or affect his self esteem or whatever the case may be. But if you're not telling the truth, you're doing a dissatisfaction or disservice, excuse me, to yourself and to your spouse because he wants to know truly if he is meeting the mark. And if he's not, most men, they want to know. So it's our job, it's our duty and our responsibility to communicate that. All right. So the ideal situation is that it will be something that you, husband, is looking forward to, wife, you are looking forward to, and let us race each other to the bedroom because we're enjoying it so much and it's so good. So if you are struggling in your relationship, sex or otherwise, please reach out, place a heat call today. You can call or text 727-213-8247, and I am here to assist you. I am happy to give you a complimentary just assessment evaluation call, and there is no charge for that. And what we do on that call is we evaluate and assess what your needs are, and then we set up a plan that will be able to assist you. All right. So I hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend, as we're all preparing for the holiday. And I wish you all good health and wealth Nothing but peace and joy. So you all have a wonderful, wonderful night. Thank you for listening. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you same time, same place next week. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good night.